Ah, yes. One of my personal favorite species to fish for, the spotted sand bass, a Southern California native coastal fish. Most locals just call them spotties, or more commonly, spotted bay bass, since the majority of spotties are caught in shallow bays and estuaries, usually finding refuge in and around rocks, structure, eelgrass, and they have to have a sandy or muddy bottom. These relatively smaller fish, reaching 6 pounds max, belong to the huge family of fish called Serenade, that word, which includes sea basses and groupers. Don't let their small size fool you though. These fish, pound for pound, are some of the hardest hitting, hardest fighting, and extremely aggressive bass you can ever dream of catching. To compare, a 2-pound spotted bay bass will fight harder and longer than a 5-pound largemouth bass. First and foremost, these fish are opportunistic predators. They mainly feed on crustaceans, bivalves, and small fish. Second, these fish are very tide dependent, meaning if the tide ain't right, you can't buy a bite. I found that fishing 2 hours before and after a high tide is the best time, or I should say, the best tide period to catch these spotty bass. Now, another factor is time. Spotted bay bass prefer to hunt at sunrise and sunset. Finally, temperature. They can tolerate a wide range of temperatures, somewhere between 45 degrees to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, although they're most active and most comfortable between 65 to 75 degrees. Luckily, San Diego's inshore coastal waters rarely get below 60 degrees Fahrenheit, even during winter, so the fishing is good year-round. Okay, now that all that sciencey stuff is done with, let's talk about what you need to use and how to catch these spotties. As mentioned earlier, these fish don't get big. So, with that said, my go-to setup would have to be a 6 to 7 foot lightweight fast-action spinning rod and about a 1000 size series spinning reel, spooled with either 4, 6, or 8 pound test monofilament. Now, baits can vary from cut strips of squid, mackerel, whole mussel, or even market shrimp on a size 1/0 bait holder hook and a 1/2 ounce sliding sinker. Now, live baits work best, and the best live baits are ghost shrimp and jack smelt. Artificial baits can also yield surprising results. My favorite is a Texas rigged Berkeley gulp shrimp or a soft plastic fluke. I favor Texas rigs because they are virtually snagless. Other great lures are paddle-tailed swim baits, irons, and shallow diving minnows such as Rapala X-Rap and Missouri Crystal minnows. Now that you have the gear, the bait, we're going to talk about technique, which is a very crucial step. With cut and live baits, the technique is cast out maybe 30 feet from shore, sit down, crack open a cold one, and wait for a bite. Easy enough. Artificials, however, require a bit more skill and experience. Starting with the Texas rig shrimp or fluke, you want to cast into weed beds, eelgrass, or any rocky bottoms and structures. Reeling in slowly and bouncing and pausing the lure every so often is going to yield you some very surprising results. Since the chances of getting snagged is near zero and most bass will be hiding in those areas, it almost makes sense to start off with this setup. With swim baits, however, you want to avoid snag risk areas and try to cast around or near structure. Same goes for irons. With shallow diving minnow baits, it's a matter of just casting and reeling over structure, only pausing occasionally. Now the speed's going to vary for what type of species, but for spotties, it's usually a medium speed, and then stop, and then reel in again. The color of the artificial lures matters. Don't believe what anybody else tells you. Fish see in 4 different spectrums: red, blue, green, and ultraviolet. To compare, humans can only see 3, red, blue, and green, and most mammals usually just see 2, blue and green. So to reiterate, fish, especially spotted bay bass, have excellent eyesight and night vision, so color is very important to fish, especially predatory fish. Mimic the prey that bass would naturally eat: shrimps, crabs, and small fish. This usually translates to oranges, reds, pinks, and browns for crustaceans, and blues, purples, silvers, whites, greens, and a black top for small bait fish mimics. Happy fishing, everybody!